You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Maple Footy Podcast. And yes, Premier League Match Recap 3 is this week's talking point. And yeah, it was, of course, another busy weekend in the Prem. But first, gonna let you know next week I will not be dropping on Tuesday. I'll be dropping when the Canadian men's national team plays. I'll be dropping the day after they play their two friendlies. So they play on this Saturday, the 7th of September, against the United States of America. They play then, so I will try my absolute hardest to drop on the following Sunday after I watch the game, and of course give my notes, thoughts, feelings, all that fun stuff, because it's the Maple Footy Podcast. So of course we have to talk about our men. And then they play again on the 10th, which is, funnily enough, a Tuesday, so I'll be dropping on next Wednesday. So you will be getting two Maple Footy podcasts from me next week, just neither on Tuesday. I do hope that's all right. I know we've kind of gotten used to these Tuesday drops. And, of course, immediately as we adopt these Tuesday drop schedules, we are throwing a wrench in the plan of the Canadian men's national team, but we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? We love watching them play. So, of course, we'll talk about them. We'll support. We love it. And yeah, that gets that out the way. So let's talk about the Prem. So, once again, quick recap of how we do this. Segment number 1, match of the weekend. Number 2, biggest winners of the weekend. 3, underperformers. 4, performance, best performance. 5, moment of the weekend. 6, relegation zone. 7, European places. And 8, title race. So, match of the weekend. I mean, I really do feel like there is only one whenever these two teams play. Even if it's a dull match, it's most likely going to be one of the matches of the weekend. And I am, of course, talking about Liverpool and Manchester United. 3-0 Liverpool win. And they're really enjoying getting to play Manchester United in recent years. It seems like every time they play, they almost win. Most of them. I know last season United beat them in the FA Cup, but outside of that, when was the last time United really got a big win up on Liverpool? I can't really think of it off the top of my head. I'd have to go into the history books. But yeah, I mean, this game was truly done and dusted in the first half, and I'll be talking a lot about this game throughout this episode, as it was one of the games that brought a lot of talking points this weekend. So it was pretty done and dusted, 2-0 at halftime, or maybe was it 1-0? Just goes to show how much it really was done, that I think it might have been 2-0 at halftime. It was in fact 2-0 at halftime. Could have been 3, and Alexander-Arnold goal was disallowed, offside. Probably could have been even more if, Dominic Szoboszlai, Diego Jota, Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz could have buried even more chances than they already did. So, I mean, yeah, just really what you expect from this fixture. High intensity. Manchester United didn't look up for it, but the intensity was coming from Liverpool, which is pretty disappointing if you're a United fan, as this is typically one of, if not your biggest games of the season at Old Trafford. You're playing your biggest rival. To get thumped 3-0 and to have 3-0 probably flatter you, it's not the best look. And I mean, it really just goes to show, in my opinion, as to United did need that managerial change. And I know a lot of United fans who back Ten Hag will say, well, there was no one else on the market. I don't think that should stop you from trying to get someone new if the time is up. And I do think that his time has well and truly been up for a long time now. But a 3-0 loss to your biggest rival, I know it's early on this season, so it's kind of bad to kind of call for someone's sacking. But he was lucky to have gotten the contract extension at the end of last season. Last season, at the end of it, would have been the perfect time to let Ten Hag go. But instead, they opted to renew him. So I don't really know where they go from here. But I think this is really an indication of the season to come for United if they do stick with Ten Hag for it. Which, that's their choice, I guess, right? Like, I'm not in charge of United, so what do I know? But regardless, big win for Liverpool as they continue their perfect start to the season. Did also want to shout out for match of the weekend, Bournemouth and Everton. Who would have thought? It's 2-0 in the 87th minute and for Everton, and before you know it, it's 3-2 for Bournemouth as they take the massive win. So I don't really want to say it's match of the weekend, as that's really more so best 10 minutes of the weekend. But regardless, just wanted to give that a big shout out, as I'll probably be talking about Everton a little bit in this episode as well. It's a Merseyside episode. What can I say, guys? But so if you have the time to devote to watching the highlights of any one match, I would say it would be one of those two, whether it's Everton, Bournemouth, or Liverpool, United, or even if you just want to watch the match on your own, go ahead, Those would be probably the two that I would highly recommend. Moving into biggest winners of the weekend. Yeah, we're going to keep it boring. I think this is the third week in a row I'm saying Liverpool and Manchester City. It's kind of hard not to, as they are the only two teams to have a 100% win record still intact following the third game of the season going into this new international break. I mean, as I already covered, Liverpool beating their biggest rival in United, it's pretty big, obviously, and it keeps that 100% dub record intact. And then, of course, looking at Manchester City, what more can you say? 3-1 against West Ham. Another Erling Haaland hat-trick, by the way, which is absurd. We're 3 games in, and this guy's gotten a hat-trick in 2 of them. So what does that take him to? Is that 7 goals this season? Let me fact check that real quick. Here on the Maple Footy podcast, we like to keep our stats intact. Yes, 7 goals in 3 matches. It's absurd. That's absurd. But credit to him, he's got his shooting boots on, as he always does, and he's starting this season as he's finished the last 2 seasons with Manchester City on fire. So those are my biggest winners of the weekend. Liverpool, City. I know, guys, I'm sorry. It is very disappointing, but as I keep reiterating, as the season starts to kind of go on and shape up, we'll probably be seeing more relegation battling teams kind of get these big winners of the weekend, or even people hunting for Europe. But at the moment, the 2 at the top are probably going to continue to get winners of the weekend for the next little bit, I would say. Sorry. But looking at our biggest underperformers of the weekend, there's a good few. Number 1, refs, again. I'm just not having it with these guys. They're terrible. Prime example, Cole Palmer threw on goal, Chelsea Palace, which the game obviously ended 1-1. But threw on goal, Will Hughes, who's already on a yellow card, by the way, deliberately yanks Cole Palmer down. Should be a second yellow. It isn't a second yellow. The game continues. Even the Palace manager knew that Will Hughes was lucky to still be on, so he immediately subbed him off after that. Put on, I believe it was Decore, and Decore doesn't assist or get the goal for Crystal Palace, but plays a big part in that goal. So, could have been a bit of a different result. Not trying to make an excuse for Chelsea, as they did not deserve to get anything from that game, but just one of the reffing instances from this weekend that, of course, did not sit right with me, and I'm sure that each fan probably has at least one that they would be valid in complaining about. My other underperformers are, of course, Everton. Oh, man, Everton. This could be the season Everton does get the relegation. It really could be. They have started off extremely poorly. Terrible goal differential at the moment. They're conceding like no tomorrow. Sean Dyche, and I love Sean Dyche, by the way. Genuinely, I love Sean Dyche. But Sean Dyche just looks like he doesn't know how to get the best of these players anymore. At this moment in time, I should say, who knows, he could turn this around. But at this moment in time, he doesn't look like he knows how to get the best out of his players. And just when you think they're about to get their first win of the season, a very crucial 3 points, they concede 1 and then 2 in very quick succession. And you're going, okay, it's bad to give up 2 that quickly towards the end of the game when you're marching towards the almost a guaranteed 3 points. But, you concede 2 and you go, okay, fair. We'll get the tie at least, right? No. They concede a third, and before you know it, they're 3-2 at home, losing 3-2 at home after being up 2-0 until the 87th minute. And then you don't get any points. It's another loss, and probably their worst loss of the season, which is saying something because I know this was actually their closest game this season, but this is the worst loss that they've suffered this season, bar none, I would say. And it's just not looking good for Everton. Now, I'm not trying to say that they're going to get relegated. We are only 3 games in. They do still have 35 games to make up for it, but more looming point deductions, a team that doesn't look up for it at the moment, a manager who, by the way, I do love, but a manager who at the moment doesn't seem to be able to get the best out of his players. It's not looking great. I'd be very concerned if I was an Everton fan, as I'm sure they probably are, but definitely an underperformer this weekend. My next underperformer is Manchester United as a whole, because I will be zeroing in on one player right after I talk about United. I just think it's terrible, to go out there and wear such a historic badge like Manchester United, and you're playing your biggest rival. Sorry, Manchester City. I don't think that you're a bigger rival than Liverpool for United. But you're playing Liverpool at home. It's Old Trafford early in the season. A big win going into the international break could really send the fans home happy for the next week or so. But no, you go out there. The first little bit, you show a little bit of fight, but then Liverpool kind of easily zero in on you. They kind of show that your manager is clueless. Your players don't really care. And it just leaves, I think, you feeling pessimistic for the season for United, because where do you go from here? It's the same old story at this point that it has been for the last decade, Some minor ups, some major ups, some minor and major downs, and just kind of riding that wave. Not really sure how to correct a sinking ship, really. It's got to be tough. I mean, there's not really much consistency at the moment. A glaring issue in the dugout. And in all fairness, I don't think Ten Hag is the biggest issue with United, but he definitely is an issue. And something just needs to be done. Something needs to change. Like I said, if you can't get up for Liverpool, then what can you get up for and show some fight for? That's my opinion. And speaking of United, of course, I can't go without saying one of the worst performances of the last little bit was definitely Casemiro. Just terrible. I mean, I don't really have much to say that other people haven't already said. I think it's just sad to see such a great player in his day to have such a rapid decline and to really just look out of place. He was brought in to be a game changer, and he has not been that. He was giving the ball away. I can't even say he was really committing fouls because he couldn't get close to anyone. I think his time at the top is probably done and has been done for, how long has he been at United? This is 3rd season. Probably about 3 seasons now. I think his time at the top is done. it was just really bad. Like I said, I don't really have much new to contribute to the conversation of Casemiro not playing well against Liverpool. But yeah, just really bad, and you'd expect a lot more from a player of his caliber and someone who bolsters such an impressive cabinet of trophies. You would think that he would at least put in an effort, and he didn't even look like. It's one thing to play bad, but to not even really look like you care is just as, if not worse. So those are my 3 underperformers for the weekend. Moving on to best performance, and for the first time in Maple Footy history, we are throwing out a team instead of a player, and that team will, of course, be Liverpool, because 3-0 thumping of Manchester United, I'm not sure it gets much better than that, except for, when they beat them 7-0 at home 2 seasons ago, or a season ago, whenever that was. So, I mean, I guess it does get better, but it doesn't really get much better than that. You continue your strong form this season so far. Once again, I know 3 games in, but continuing strong form, keeping pace with who's got to be the title favorite, Manchester City. So you're keeping that form up, beating one of your biggest rivals early on in the season has got to be a huge confidence boost, especially going into an international break. I think it's massive. I think it's huge. It was a very good performance. They never even looked concerned. They never looked like they even got a second gear, for being honest. 3-0 flattered United, and I mean, I think it could have been more if Liverpool wanted it to be more. So that's my performance of the weekend. My moment of the weekend comes in the 96th minute for that Bournemouth-Everton game, as Luis Sinisterra, who assisted the second goal as part of Bournemouth's comeback, then goes on to score the winner. And, I mean, that has to be the moment of the weekend for me, as, 2-0 down away from home, then you score to make it 3-2 in the 96th minute. Not only is it a late winner, it's a winner that 10 minutes ago wasn't even on the cards. So that's got to be my moment of the weekend. It was a great performance, especially by Luis Sinisterra. Like I said, assisting one, getting another, and Semenya also had a great performance for Bournemouth. The Bournemouth project is looking really strong at the moment. I mean, I would be concerned about them having Kepa in net. Trust me, as a Chelsea fan, it's not a positive having Kepa in net, but that's got to be, that's got to be the moment of the weekend, for me at least. Looking at our relegation zone, all the familiar faces that we have covered so far. You got Everton, Southampton, Wolves. Wolves did pick up their first point of the season, as they were able to snatch a 1-1 draw with Nottingham Forest. A lot of the action that game happened in the first 15 minutes, as both goals were scored in the 10th and then 12th minute respectively. But Wolves did get their first point. I think it'll be the first of a good few, as they're going to be climbing their way out that relegation zone, I predict at least. Southampton, still 0 points, -4 goal difference. Not looking great for Southampton at the moment, as they were handed a 3-1 loss against Brentford, and they're going to be coming back from the international break against Manchester United. I know I have ragged on United this episode, but United does have enough quality to see off Southampton, so Southampton may not be looking at their first points until the 21st of September, where they're playing Ipswich. Who knows, maybe they do pull off the shot against United. Stranger things have happened, but to go into your potentially 5th match week against Ipswich was still 0 points. That's gotta be a real chink in that trying for safety. But of course, rooted to the bottom of the table is Everton, sitting on 0 points and -8 goal difference. They've only scored 2 but have conceded 10. Shout out Jordan Pickford. 10 goals conceded. Yes, the Pickford agenda does not drop. Just terrible, just really bad. They're facing Villa after the international break, then potential relegation battlers Leicester after that on the 21st of September, and then Palace it just doesn't get easier. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They have Ipswich on match week 8, which is October 19th. It doesn't look great. I mean, they could pick up points against Leicester, Palace, Villa, Newcastle. I mean, nothing is impossible, but just looking at their schedule, it really doesn't look like it's about to be a very great time in Goodison. Who knows? They could turn it around. They have in the past. I mean, they have proven that they're more than capable of doing so. But just at this very moment, it's just really hard to see anything good with this Everton side. And you got to be biting your fingernails if you're an Everton fan, in my opinion. But looking at those European places, of course, once again, I will reiterate, as I have many times, everybody is still pretty close at this moment in time. I mean, from 4th to 12th, there's 3 points in between them all. So, like, one win and loss would get you, theoretically, into or out of those Champions League spots. But at the moment, Arsenal and Brighton are occupying 3rd and 4th spot. Brighton, as I've said multiple times, I do see dropping out of that top 4. Arsenal, I think, will hang steady in the title race, though. Arsenal, of course, and Brighton did drop points to each other. Both teams losing that 100% win record, but are still both undefeated. So, they're both starting the season off strong. And then you got Newcastle tied on points, but of course not goal difference with the two. And then Brentford, Villa, Bournemouth, Forest, Tottenham, and Chelsea, Fulham are all the way also all chasing. So as the season shapes up, we'll kind of see how that goes. And the title race, 2 teams that we kind of expect to still be in there, of course, are Liverpool and City, both continuing their strong form. I've covered them both this episode. So, I mean, I don't really have much to say about the title race. It's pretty much what we kind of thought. Arsenal, Liverpool, and City are all still very much there, as you would expect. Liverpool's looking very strong under Arne Slot. I will be interested to see if it's new manager bounce or if he is the real deal. We'll, once again, as with most stuff that I've said, we'll kind of see how that's going to shape up towards the probably midway point of the season, whereas Manchester City are, they're Man City. We know what they can do. We know what they're capable of. They've got probably on paper the best team in the league and have probably the best manager in the world. So we know what they're capable of. We know how good they are. I don't really see them more than anyone falling out of this title race. It's what they do. They win league titles. It's literally what they've been doing for who knows how long now. 4 years in a row it was, and then how many before that? It's pretty incredible what they're doing at the moment. And Liverpool and Arsenal will just be trying to make sure that City don't make it 5 in a row, in my opinion. But, of course, that does bring an end to our little recap sesh. I will reiterate, next week I will be dropping, not on Tuesday, but you will be getting 2 episodes after Canada's international friendlies against the States and Mexico. Allez les Rouges. We'll be looking forward to those friendlies, of course. I can't wait. I love covering our national team. It's my favorite stuff to do for Maple Footy. So I'm eagerly anticipating it. They should be good games. I'll be interested to see how Canada, who were the best performing CONCACAF nation at Copa, I'll be interested to see how they can kind of carry that form into these 2 friendlies. They're, of course, just friendlies. They're not for anything. Like, they're not for Nations League. They're not for World Cup qualifying. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited. I'll be covering them. And you can follow me at Official Sam Little everywhere except for Twitter or X, whatever you want to refer to as, where I'm at _S Little, Sam Little, sorry. And of course, subscribe here, follow along. I'm hoping you're really liking these episodes, these Premier League recaps. And I hope you're looking forward to hearing me talk more about the Canadian men's national team, because I'm looking forward to telling you about them. But thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at Official Sam Little on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.